Hewlett and Dunn, Thursday, December 11th, 2025. Rob Browne in Memphis. Beautiful Mid-South. Nice, cool morning. Brendan Martin in Ocala. And
Brendan's not here today.
Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. It's the
Mac Browne.
Mac Browne. Yeah, Mac Browne. Is it Richard Petty? I'm
I'm
really
Richard
sure.
Petty today.
Yeah.
That's my alter ego on the show is Richard Petty.
There we go. Well, look, we got a great one today. We got Coach Matt Dean, John Hartwell, College Sports Solutions, Gabe Kuhn, and we're going to be joined by him. He's going to give us it's a neat perspective. Do we need to go to a group of 5 playoff and a power 4 playoff? Just have two separate, groups. We're going to talk about that today. Also, Gary Harris checks in, WVUA Channel 23, sports director in Tuscaloosa. His phone works. He's always ready to go. He could be driving. He could be sitting. He could be flying. We'll do it all. Take a picture with your cell phone. Be cool. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. 8 channels simultaneously. And cannot thank you enough, all of you that are out there watching.
1.2 million views on our Facebook page in the last 28 days. Thank you very much for checking in. We appreciate we got QR codes on the screen. If you wonder what those are, if you've been living under a rock, you can frame grab those and you can look up the QR. You can go into our chat, hit the link. You just go to Facebook and you can search for SEC Sidelines and or Rob Browne or any of us. We've got reels and posts everywhere. Just go ahead and click a follow, like, share, make a comment. I don't know, buy a vowel, anything keeps us going, because that kind of stuff gets us paid in the future one day. Maybe not anytime soon. But we want to keep doing this job for free and not getting a real job. So help us out so we can help you out.
Yeah. And one thing for sure is that this never seems like work, because it is so much fun talking with the smartest people in sports, like John Hartwell, Matt Dean, and Gabe Kuhn will be joining us momentarily. I think Gabe was doing one last set of gassers out there. He still misses. I'm going to ask Gabe. He said he was logging in right now as we speak, and he has a 1-year-old. So I imagine his mornings are just interrupted with But hey, guys, I watched what happened at Michigan yesterday. Sharon Moore, man, at some point, it's just what a shame. And I guess he was fired with cause. And John, does that mean no buyout? And then I hear Dave Portnoy. I watched him. Come on, at Michigan, we don't play for 9-3. Well, the guy's been there 2 years, and now they're not exactly setting the world on fire, but guys, I think that's exactly the problem, is this playoff or bust mentality. It's making a lot of fans very hard to be around. Matt, John, who wants to answer that one? I think it's I want to win it all too, but
hey guys, welcome to the show. How you been? Nice to see you. Good,
yeah.
Good. Tell me Rob's on 4. Let's say Rob was double fisted 2 different kinds of coffee. FYI. Just want you to know that's what you're getting into. Welcome to the show.
Nice. I've just got one. So here's the thing. This whole story goes way outside of wins and losses. I mean, it's really a sad deal, because you're gonna have a wake of destruction in this whole deal, just based on the initial information, and it's not just Coach Moore's family and his livelihood, because yes, he did get terminated with cause, and which means no buyout, no nothing. You're out the door, and depending on timing, depending on who they hire, all of that, you got an entire staff that's right. Kind of left out there holding the bag too, that really had nothing to do with this. And the timing cycle of getting jobs, it's at the tail end of that. So just a bad story, and quite frankly, another knock on the reputation of the University of Michigan, and they've unfortunately had quite a few of late. So that's and I understand Dave Portnoy, and obviously there's a lot of people poking jabs, not just the Ohio State folks at this story, but there's a really serious side to it too that I hate to see.
There is. Gabe Kuhn is in here with us now, ESPN 92.9 in Memphis. A proud native son, I got it right this time, of Wildwood, one of the many. I think there's 35 suburbs to St. Louis because, like I said, I worked for A.G. Edwards for 8 years. Loved it. Great. St. Louis people are about as good as it gets.
I was getting excited. I thought you meant Wildwood, Florida. I was going to be like, man, that's right down the road, bro.
And Gabe is
in Richard Petty's backyard.
That's right. Gabe is 6'5", 310. I thought were you getting some gassers in this morning, some wind sprints?
You know it. Of course.
Do you miss playing college football?
Well, I think you need to rephrase the questions around it. Do I miss getting up at 5 a.m. and doing all these circuits and all the conditioning? Absolutely not. Game day, love. I miss that. I miss the teammates and everything else, that camaraderie, but all that other stuff. I can't imagine these days having to get up and do all that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's different. Gabe, we've got Coach Matt Dean from Rhodes College, also John Hartwell, who was AD at Troy, deputy AD at Ole Miss for 10 years, AD at Utah State, ULM, now in College Sports Solutions. So I thought I'd bring you on here, and guys, to talk about, there's a lot of, and Gabe and I was talking with Gabe yesterday. He does a great show every day from 4 to 7 p.m., ESPN 92.9 in Memphis. You need to follow him because he is as prepared as a trial lawyer going before the Supreme Court. And Gabe, we're talking about the Group of Five and Power Four. I don't want any group to feel, oh, you don't matter. I mean, do we need to go to a two-tier playoff? I'll start with you, and then I'll get John and Matt involved because they've both seen it, and Matt's at D3. It all matters.
Mm-hmm. For a two-tier playoff, listen, I would be for the idea if we had some type of relegation. That would be fun. But listen, I just feel like we have 1 year going on 2 years of sample size for a new playoff. Yeah. For a the type of representation the G5 is getting now. I would like to see more data points. And I think that we jumped the gun a little bit when we talk about, these teams that are going to get absolutely smacked around. Now, do I think that James Madison is going to stick in there against Oregon? Do I think that Ole Miss is going to lose to Tulane? They beat them 45-10 on their home field, and that's what's going to happen in the first round of the playoff. No, I don't think these teams are going to win. But that doesn't preclude them from being able to catch up and do it in the future. And I think to just abandon this plan, this idea of inclusion, I think it would be way too early. I think it would be unjust. And, if we split up these playoffs, we are expediting the process of breaking this whole thing completely up and losing any semblance of what we've known of college football from the past. And I understand we have broken down a lot of barriers. So what's one more to certain people? I get that idea. But at the same time, I think these schools deserve a seat at the table. And I don't think that just because they're not competing now, they're not going to compete in the future. And I know these two teams are from Power Fours that I'm about to bring up, but at the same time, no one ever thought there was going to be a day when Indiana was doing what they're doing now. No one ever thought there was a day that Vanderbilt was going to get a Diego Pavia and have a Heisman candidate, be 10-2 and in the top 15 in the country. So, the more that teams are able to put themselves in these positions, usually the better they get. If a team like Memphis or a team like Tulane made the college football playoff perennially, they're ultimately going to get more money given to them by big donors. They're going to bring in better talent, and they're going to be a lot better when they get that seat at the table. So, yeah, I don't want it to be a two-tiered playoff system. But, It's not about what I want. It's about what ESPN, TV networks, and college football playoff committee, the big boys, the Big Ten, the SEC, what they want. So we'll see what happens going forward. I don't advocate though for a 2-tiered playoff system.
I agree 110% with you. I say straight seed them 1 through 12, 1 through 16. Let them fight it out. John Hartwell, jump in here with Gabe Kuhn, and then Matt, I want your thoughts because it's great stuff.
Yeah, Gabe, nice to meet you, and appreciate the opportunity to be on with you this morning. Having been an AD at 3 different Group of Fives, 2 in the Sun Belt Conference and 1 in the Mountain West, and obviously Utah State now going to what I'll call the Pac 8.5 for right now. I'll say they're 8 teams, and I'll give Gonzaga Gonzaga the half since they're not playing football. But yeah, and this is a concept that's been looked at before. In fact, he made it pretty public, although he's not going down this path anymore. He's going to politics. Derek Dooley, who was a coach and an administrator for a long time, was right down the road in Ruston, Louisiana at La Tech. Derek kind of had the drumbeat going for a while, trying to go around to the Group of 5, Group of 6 now, ADs and football coaches about this concept of a separate, separate division, separate playoff. But where the challenge is, and this is always either the deal maker or breaker, depending on what side you're looking at in college athletics these days, the financial component of it. If you break away and play a Group of 6 championship, the numbers just are not there as we sit today. Now, it may change 24 months or 36 months down the line from now, but the amount of money that the schools and the conferences from which they come that are competing in the CFP, I mean, for James Madison, for Tulane, it's a total of about $6 million. So that's a couple of million to the school. That's a couple of million to the league to distribute out, however their distribution and percentages are set up. And then a couple of million to cover the expenses. So that's real money, whether you're in the American, the Sun Belt, any of those things. And by separating that group and having your own TV deal, it just was not driving that much of a distribution. And that's just one component. That $6 million is just one component, the participant share. But the overall pool and the amount that each of the leagues and each of the Group of 6 leagues get is tremendous too. So I agree with you. I don't think, is the likelihood of Tulane or James Madison advancing beyond the quarterfinals very high? No, not much at all. But it exists. The game has to be played. Yeah. And what the difference is maybe in this quarterfinal game versus week 1 or 2 in the regular season, there's a body of work. There's a body of work for James Madison and for Tulane, for Oregon and Ole Miss, respectively, to study. And it's not going to be like, oh, this game for Ole Miss is sandwiched between Georgia and Alabama, and we're just going to go through the motions, and it may be a close game. No, every one of these, it's survive and advance. So that you're going to get the best shots out of Oregon and Ole Miss. And yeah, they probably aren't going to be close games, but I totally agree with you in keeping it one playoff system.
Yeah. Matt?
Hey, Gabe. We have not been formally introduced, but we know some people in the same circles. You've been in the Italian Festival tent a few times with me.
Oh, of course. Yep.
Yeah. And
nice.
My son, Tyler, was really good friends with Robbie Young, who I think is one of your former teammates,
Yep.
And but big fan of your show, man. And I was listening last night coming home from Midtown to Germantown, and I'm really excited about Coach Huff. And I think you made a really good point about, let's say we get Memphis on a 2 or 3 run in the title game. Let's say we make the college football playoff. We already got some infrastructure in place. We talk about the facilities. Even when you started as a player there, they've gotten better. We've had a nice plus decade run of consistency, and he mentioned closing the gap. So I think it would be remarkable to see what Memphis can do if they get to that position you were talking about in your show yesterday, because I think it's real, man. We've done it in basketball here for years.
Right.
I know it doesn't seem like it recently, but Memphis is a program that, man, I can see down the road with a couple of titles in a row. Could they win one of those 6-11 games? I think it's possible, man. I think you make a great point.
Yeah, and Matt, the thing is, and by the way, Tyler, love Tyler, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it,
love that guy, man. I miss him. I haven't seen him in a while. But yeah, the thing that I can't get over, especially at a place like the University of Memphis, they've only been investing in this dang thing for 12 years, guys.
Yeah.
That's the only time they have done it in really, program or school history. Like when I got on campus and Justin Fuente took over, and then Tom Bowen,
my cousin
at the time, took over as AD. He was the first AD of the 2000s to say, hey, guys, I know you love your basketball, but you know what really pays the bills when you're good at it? It's football. And they finally decided to invest in it. And you've seen what's followed: 12 straight bowl games. Yeah. A bunch of wins. Yeah. Couple of conference championships along the way, a Cotton Bowl appearance. Memphis fans, you've been around Memphis. That was never even a thought in the back of anybody's mind. So, yeah, I just think, especially today and now in the NIL, it takes one angel investor to say, hey, I'll pay for your roster. Cody Campbell at Texas Tech to say, hey, I'll give you $30 million on your roster. You can go get whoever the heck you want. So I think it's just short-sighted by a lot of folks that think that the G5 can never really catch up. First of all, we've seen upsets. We've seen these teams beat these other teams. And if here's the other thing that I did mention yesterday, I'm not sure if you heard it, but if the bar is you have to be able to win a CFP and beat Ohio State and beat Alabama and beat Georgia and beat Michigan when they're up, although I'm sure you guys talked about that already. Then that's not a bar that really anybody in the country can make. They're their own conference mate. Mississippi State's never going to be in that position. Arkansas is never going to be in that position. No offense to anybody that is fans of those schools. But if that's the bar, then remove 99.9% of college football teams and institutions from the playoff, because that's just – in the end of the day, we're still going to end up with that same group of schools in the national title and winning national titles. It's just about how we get there and what it looks like on the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's just the Memphis thing. And it was cool to see Charles Huff yesterday in his intro. I thought he did a really good job. But, yeah, the idea that these schools can't get there at any point in time, I know historically they haven't, but that does not preclude them from doing it in the future.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm going to go to John, but I want to say this. The best comparison, I think, historically you can make about do we need to go to a two-tier, which we don't. It sounds good, but you don't. And then John Hartwell just explained it. Keep in mind, he is a CPA and a Citadel graduate, so he knows those numbers. But here's the best example. Our founding fathers, when it came to the election, put in an electoral college so the country would not be ruled by the largest states' populations. The fact that every time you get your ass up and go to work at 4:30 or 5 in the morning voluntarily, it's the American dream. That's what we're built on. And to sit there and say, well, this school, this group, they can't compete. Don't say that. And you talk about angel investors. There's 6 families in Memphis with net worth over $1 billion or $2 billion. There's a lot of money in Memphis. And Ryan Silverfield tapped into Richard Smith we talked about. That's a big deal. John, jump in here with Gabe, because Gabe, you're making such a great argument. Your next life, you need to be a trial lawyer.
I don't know about all that.
And obviously the backing of FedEx and the Smith family has done wonders and will continue to do wonders for the competitiveness of Memphis. And as you mentioned, Gabe, basketball had been the ruler of the roost, if you will, for a significant amount of time. But with the investment in football and obviously the recent success, because I can remember, so I was at Ole Miss from 2003 to 2012, and I promise you, every time that the Rebels went to the Liberty Bowl, it was a war, and came out on the short end of a couple of those, and I think it's really important that those, with the SEC going to 9 conference games, and with the expectation or the requirement in some of the Power 4 leagues to have at least one other Power 4 game on your schedule, I think there really needs to be an effort from both sides, not just in the Memphis Ole Miss rivalry, but some others too, to try to preserve those. I know the window and number of games, with only 2 available slots on a schedule, but I think those are so good for the region and for the rivalry and all of those things as well.
Yep. Yep. And I will say, I think we're in a weird spot with those, though, right? I saw this, I think last week, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. We need more of that. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's going to watch them and it's going to be TV ratings galore. That's not what I'm saying at all, which some people, I guess, act disingenuous these days and act like, every game and every college football matchup is supposed to be, made for TV. But at the same time, you look at the 9-game SEC schedule, Big Ten schedule, ACC adopted it. Last week you saw Alabama move South Florida to 2030, and we'll see if they even play that game. You're just seeing it less and less. I mean, you're seeing these schools. I don't know if they're scared of these G5, contenders, these Memphises, these South Floridas, these Tulanes. But at the same time, there's clearly an avoidance of those games at this point. They're going to replace those with Chattanooga and a lot of FCS opponents at this point, because they don't want to put another loss on their resume. Don't even want to take the chance with it. So I agree with you. I find it frustrating, though, that I feel the way I do about what it's going to look like going into the future.
Well, I was going to say, Rob, we have to do something in a lot of ways. I was just the other day, I was bored and for 2 seconds waiting for something to render, and I was just on Grok, and I was like, hey, I went down the rabbit hole with AI, and I was just like, hey, who runs this entire thing? Like, how do we make change? Like, and it was really funny because it was a back and forth and really had to break it down. And the end result was Grok's like, well, Greg Sankey just runs the whole thing. So I was like, oh, well, AI gets it. But, the idea was like, well, we're just going to have to really trash this model. What was it? Dan Mullen said in his press conference, but less than a week ago, he said, we got to trash everything and just start it all over again. And then we can kind of remake the rules. I don't know. Are we at that point, Gabe, or is it a fixable model without going to a super conference, separating out, making a new rule, then making a smaller conference? Because, broadcast stuff and all that, we can still make money on regional sports now with streaming and everything else. There's ways and models to do that. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, there would be a way to do it. I don't think that the SEC or the Big Ten in their current construction would be for it, would be for regionalizing and taking money out of their pockets and, spreading the wealth. So I think I hate to say it, and this is, maybe I'm being cynical, maybe somebody else, if somebody else feels more positively about this, please speak. But I don't feel very positively about where we're headed. I think we're eventually just inevitably going to have some level of break-off between the Power 4 and the Group of 5. And I think the Group of 5 will be rendered into, to a certain extent, maybe a little bit plussed up version of what the FCS has been over all these years. I don't like that. In fact, I hate that. It frustrates me to no end. I try to do the Lord's work on my show every day, fighting against this future plan that's not yet been sort of set in stone. But I think we're too far gone, unfortunately. There's a way to fix it, but it's got to be everybody involved, everybody putting their head together. And we have not shown the ability to be able to agree on anything from conference to conference. Conference commissioners are beefing. We have the Notre Dame AD beefing with the ACC all together. I mean, we're We are a collection of folks at this point who can't agree on anything, and that's why nothing has gotten done in any timely manner around NIL and the transfer portal and everything else.
Hey, well, let me say this: One Stone Angel. It sounds like you all want everyone to win a trophy. I am the furthest thing from participation trophy you're ever going to see in your life. I mean, I promise you that. I'm just saying, for the good of America, Gabe, I can tell you as a compliment. First time you ever produced my show on a Saturday morning was a lot different than other producers who came in, put a hood over their head, and fell asleep on the mic because they've been out all night. You took the job seriously, and then I knew you had played football at Memphis, started 51 straight games. Wasn't any question you could do the work. Matt, jump back in here with this, but I am about competition. Is what I'm about, not making everybody feel good. I'm with Gabe. The more you get sniffing these playoffs, the more this big money in these towns like Memphis and Nashville. Trust me, drive through Belmead sometime. Vanderbilt, it's scary how much money there is in Nashville. But Matt, jump in here.
No, I'm going to jump back in on the Memphis train because, Gabe, you brought up a point, and obviously my first cousin, Tom Bowen, when he came to Memphis, he had a background in football. He played college football. He was a De La Salle high school AD at one point in time, so he knew winning tradition. Our first conversation, we went to Huey's in Poplar, and we're talking about Memphis, and I was talking about the long history of basketball. I said, man, if you could ever find a way to get football involved, I just think we could just have elite status here because we could have 2 top 25 top programs. And you look at, obviously, him and Fuente were hired at the same time, but they had a pretty good relationship. Though Justin could be challenging. But I'll tell you, he was also the one guy that kind of uncovered Norvell and brought him to Memphis a little bit. People may not know that. But you look at the run we've had at Memphis, and we do another good thing here with Charles Huff. And I give a lot of props to Coach Silverfield. I really like the man. He did a lot of things from university. Just couldn't get that final hurdle, right? Just couldn't get those extra 1 or 2 wins. But if Huff does that, if Huff gets us to that title game and we win and we get into the playoff, I just think the money's going to expand. I think Memphis becomes a player. And truth be told, I think that's why people like the Big 12 has held us out a little bit because they're scared of our potential. 100%. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, listen, I think they'd argue against that, right? But I think some of what you're saying does ring true in the sense that no one wants to share their money. No one wants to, have a Memphis come along and break up the pot for them. So they're taking less. So I feel like it's sort of this town ain't big enough for the two of us. They tried to hold down places like Memphis as this continues to move along, because they like to hold on to what they've held on to for some years. I think that's the crux of it. I think there is vested interest from a lot of those schools to keep the other schools, the have-nots, where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely.
John Hartwell, I know you got one more question before we let Gabe go. I know Gabe's got a 1-year-old, so Gabe probably been up since what?
I hope y'all haven't heard him. I hope y'all haven't heard him.
No, dogs and kids are allowed in the show.
Dogs and kids are more than welcome. That's our future.
I got one right there. He's
nice. There we go.
I got
dogs
2 and 2
kids.
cats.
Yeah, the other one's in school. 13's coming for you. Don't worry.
Yeah. John Hartwell, jump in here with another question for Gabe, and Gary Harris will be on here with us momentarily.
Yeah, Gabe makes a great point about the haves not wanting to share more of the piece of the pie or a bigger piece of the pie with the have-nots, and I think part of it, when you look at a community like Memphis, and again, having been at Ole Miss for almost 10 years, that it's an interesting dynamic because you're only 60 miles from Oxford. You've got a significant Arkansas contingent in Memphis and West Memphis. You've got a Vanderbilt contingent. You've got a Tennessee contingent, even though, obviously the geographic distance between Memphis and Knoxville is greater than it is to Tuscaloosa or some other places. But it's almost like a melting pot. And hey, can you get folks who may not be a Memphis alum to be all in on the Memphis Tigers? And that's no different than when I was the AD at Utah State. Hey, you got BYU and you got Utah people too, or at Troy when you're in what I would call the Devil's Triangle. I loved it there, but you were in the Devil's Triangle because you had Tuscaloosa, Auburn, and Tallahassee all within about 2.5 hours of there. And, you'd walk down the street or even on campus at Troy, and you would see any of those three schools shirts. And, eventually as an AD, you say, hey, from a fundraising standpoint, your first dollars, your first check may go to Alabama or Auburn or Florida State, but hell, you live in this community. We need you invested in this because the success of our athletic program is going to help, the overall economy. So speak to that a little bit as being a Memphis guy.
Yeah, and Gabe, I want to hear your thoughts on that, and then let people know how they can follow you, and then we're going to go on to Gary Harris, and I'll let you go. That's a great question.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. There's a lot of people, in the Memphis donor base that, hey, they never went to Memphis. I think a good example of that, the best possible example of that, would be Fred Smith. Fred Smith is not some Memphis alum. He went to Yale.
Yeah,
that's where he went. Yet he was still willing, because of he knew what it meant to this community. He was willing to invest and pour in, his heart and soul to a university that he didn't go to. But, I look at the situation, and there's a lot to still be unlocked at a lot of these places.
Yeah.
There just truly is. And I like what you said about the Memphis being the SEC melting pot. Yeah, you could look at that as a negative, but you could also look at it as proof positive that you have a lot of unlocked potential football fans right there in your backyard, right there. And the truth of the matter is, at Memphis, when you're good, it's not a college town. It's a full city that starts to come out of the woodworks and rally behind you. I mean, it's rare. I mean, truthfully, when we talk group of five, when we talk mid-major, what have you, however you want to term the little guy, how many of those schools are able to pack in 60,000 for a conference game in 2019 against SMU?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, I have seen the proof of concept when it comes to getting the entire city to rally behind a place like Memphis, show up in droves, and look like a big boy on any given Saturday. So that's it's an interesting thing. Before I head out this morning, I hope we can try to reverse the course we're on. Because unfortunately, I think we're headed to a split off of some sort at some point. But hopefully, we can do the Lord's work here. It sounds like we're trying here this morning.
Yeah, hey, I love
the course.
Yeah,
to reverse the course. Yeah. But you can follow me on X at G_Kuhn71 KUHN, on Instagram as well. 4 to 7 Monday through Friday, 929ESPN.com with the Gabe Kuhn, or 92.9 ESPN if you're in Memphis, 92.9, 680 AM, 929ESPN.com is where you can stream it. Odyssey app, tune in, all those different apps. We're on there. And then I also have a podcast with the Bluff City Media Podcast Network every single Tuesday, live, 7 p.m. It's called On the Bluff. So appreciate you having me, Rob, and appreciate meeting all you fellas.
Hey, look, we'll do it again soon. Thank you, Gabe. Have a great day. Gary Harris, Channel 23 Sports Director in Tuscaloosa. Man, the local, drill down local. Alabama didn't win the SEC. They're in the playoffs. Now you talked last week, Gary, and thank you for joining us, about Kalen DeBoer. Had he lost the Iron Bowl, what might have happened, now, because of AI and Grok, I don't know what's real and what's not unless I'm holding it in my hand. But Alabama's in the playoff. They're playing Oklahoma. I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, that's what we do know is that Alabama is they made the playoff, and we talked about this last week, Rob, and I said I thought that Georgia would win the game and that Alabama would be in the playoff. I think that there's just no way in the world that you could have a 10-2 SEC team, 7-1 in the conference, playing the SEC championship game, and not be in the playoff. I just didn't think it's a crazy world, but we don't live in that world yet, because if that had happened, then you'd be forced to deal with trying to blow up these conference championship games. They're not ready to do that. There's too much money being made. There's television inventory involved, and they like having the conference championship games. So with that in mind, Alabama was going to get in that playoff, and I think they deserve to be in the playoff. Now, the rematch with Oklahoma, I have not picked that game yet, and I won't do it until next week on Tuesday night on Tiger Insider TV.
Yeah.
And regardless of what it looks like going in, based on what the result Oklahoma had this year against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and the fact that last year they beat them 24-3 in Norman, so they've got a chance, Oklahoma does, to beat Alabama 3 times in 13 months. Having said that, I like this matchup for Alabama, believe it or not. I was at the game in Tuscaloosa, and Alabama has struggled. The second half of the season offensively, Todd Simpson has struggled. He turned the ball over that day. Had a pick six that was really probably a 14-point turnaround, as Alabama was headed in, and he had a terrible fumble. But outside of that, now I'm telling you, Alabama moved the football that day. They moved it up and down the field all day, over 400 yards of offense. Oklahoma was opportunistic. They did what they do. They played, gutsy defense. They offensively in that game didn't make any mistakes. Their kicking game is outstanding, and they won the game. But I still think that Alabama won some couple of games it should have lost. It should have won that football game, in my opinion. So I don't dislike this matchup at all. When you lose 3 games, even though one of them was in the conference championship game, you just feel good about getting into the playoff, and Alabama's in. And, we'll talk more about it next week, but I think this is not a terrible matchup for Alabama.
Yeah. Matt Dean.
Gary is spot on as always. I feel the same way, Gary. I think if Bama plays a clean game next week, I think they win the football game. I mean, limit turnovers, and they move the ball all day. The pick six was a 14-point swing. I think it's a great matchup for the Tide. And, I like to always get ahead of myself, but like if you win that game, it would be a really interesting game with Indiana, I think. I know we're talking about Oklahoma right now, but I think there are 10 teams. I think all 10 teams outside of the 11 and 12 have a legitimate shot to have a path to get to that final game in Miami. I really do. And I think the Tide's one of them. And I think you get a little healthy, you get a little time away, and hopefully you get a couple guys back. And I think you win that game. It's going to be a really fun run. I just think that game is going to come down to, can you minimize, turnovers and getting off the field. And I think, another thing is Oklahoma's offense. Okay, I think someone on this show, I think Monday we were talking about, Rob, are they even top 75? So, I mean, everyone talks about their defense, but I think it's the opportunistic defense that's really led Oklahoma to this playoff run. I think the Tide are better.
Yeah, Oklahoma's offense, tells you that they're not going to run away from it, and that's even with the defense that they play. So I'm in agreement with you, Matt. And you did mention Indiana. I don't mind mentioning the Hoosiers because, again, this is an example of the new world that we live in with college football. Just 3 years ago, 2 years ago even, who would have ever dreamed that we would be looking at a 13-0 Indiana team with the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff, understanding that they are that good.
Yes.
I mean, there's just no way around it. And if you're an SEC fan and you try to make excuses about their schedule or this or that, listen, they just beat Ohio State.
That's right.
And listen, I think Georgia's outstanding. Georgia's playing its best football. Georgia's in the conversation. But I thought going into the conference championship games, Ohio State was the best team in the country.
Yeah.
I thought they would beat Indiana. And Indiana beat them. And it was no fluke, man. I mean, Indiana's fast. They're physical. Their quarterback, I think, is going to win the Heisman Trophy. And it is just an amazing job that Cignetti has done at Indiana. Probably, if you want to be honest about it, and I know NIL helps, and I know he brought 15 players from James Madison, but it's the greatest turnaround in the history of college football because you're talking about a true poverty program. We're talking about a program in Indiana that was one of the losingest programs in the history of college football. So, if Alabama does get past Oklahoma, that's a whole different bear right there. And if they win that game, we'll break down Indiana when we get to it. But I think that Indiana is it's one of the most amazing stories that I've ever seen. It really is.
Well, what if you had a guy that played football at Indiana, walked on, and was worth 25 to 30 billion dollars, giving money to your NIL program at Indiana? How are you going to stop that? John Hartwell, that's a true story.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's a clear correlation, and it's becoming clearer every day between investment in and success output. The more you put in, the higher
Absolutely.
likelihood of success you're going to have. It used to be in facilities and in nutrition and things like that, and those things are still a factor. But clearly, what you can put in your rev share and collective it pays dividends immediately. Look at Texas Tech as well, and where they stand in the situation. Hey Gary, I got to ask you a little bit, kind of the elephant in the room. Pardon the pun.
Yeah,
but
Big Al.
But obviously, with the news coming out of Ann Arbor late yesterday afternoon, it looked like that the hiring cycle was over. The Kalen DeBoer sweepstakes or any thoughts thereof were over, and now his name is front and center again. What are you hearing from your end there in Tuscaloosa regarding his potential candidacy at Michigan?
John, probably not anything more than anyone else is hearing. I think that this opening at Michigan certainly has created a lot of interest in football fans, and there is no doubt that is a prime job. And in the NIL era, I think Michigan is aligned as well as anybody in NIL. I think they've got pockets as anybody does right now in NIL, and and it's a blue blood job. Yeah. Of course, Kalen DeBoer has a blue blood job. Denying that, but at the same time, just having talked to a few people last night, I mean, there could be some interest there. I'm by no means ready to say this is going to happen or that's going to happen, but I think that from what I've been able to gather and read, that Kalen DeBoer is on Michigan's radar. So that's about all I can tell you at this point. We'll just have to see where it goes.
Well, Marcus Freeman's going to interview with an NFL team. I do know that at Notre Dame. Is he that mad that they didn't make the playoff? He would go to the NFL. That's crazy. I want to bring up some of these comments. One Stone Angel. I keep calling him Stone Temple Pilots. But he keeps saying, he makes a lot of sense about the 12-team playoff. Looking here too at who did Indiana play? Well, Stone Angel, you're smart, but Indiana's just outstanding football team, and it doesn't it matters who they play, but I think I've learned a lot from talking with Dave Bartu. Strength of schedule is way overrated. As Gary said, it doesn't matter who Ohio State's playing; they're the best team in the country, or Indiana is. And Indiana, I mean, y'all tell me, what are there, 5 or 6 players on that Indiana team that are really good, and the rest of them, they just do their job. But they're role players. But Bartu said it right. What you've seen the last 4 years out of Kurt Cignetti at JMU and these last 2 at Indiana, he goes, I've never seen anything like that in my life. In the SEC, 5 teams in the college football playoff. And Gary, you're right. Georgia's playing the best football they've played all year, but there's not been a national champion in this century that has not been at least top 3 offensive or defensive scoring efficiency. And I'm not sure Georgia is 25th, even in the top 25 on that, but they're playing great football right now. So I'll bounce it around. Who do y'all think is going to win this whole thing? Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go first. I have not really focused on who will win it yet because I'm still looking at game by game. I'm thinking running down all the matchups. Yeah. I mean, it's just, on paper right now, and boy, Georgia, I mean, I saw them up close Saturday. Yeah. They're fast, they're physical, like Ohio State, like Indiana. I definitely think, and listen, I don't know as much about Texas Tech. I know they're good. I would probably put Oregon in there as my fourth team that I thought had the best chance to win it. No disrespect to the other SEC teams, but I think the champion will come out of those three that we've talked a lot about: Indiana, Ohio State, or Georgia. Yeah. So right now, I think I'll go with Indiana. I mean, I just think that Cignetti has done something. I may change my mind, but just far out, I'll take the Hoosiers.
Look, we had a foot of snow in New Orleans last year, so anything is possible.
Yep.
I mean, Matt, John, y'all want to take a gander at that, as they say in the Midwest?
So last year, obviously, you guys know I have a connection with the Oregon football program, and Oregon was number one most of the year after they had a big win against Ohio State. Let me also say this to your comment. Indiana, and Gary referenced this. You beat Ohio State. I don't care who you've played.
Yeah.
You go to the Big Ten championship game. Yeah. That game mattered. It's the one overall seed. Indiana's legit. But I think if you look last year, Oregon in that quarterfinal game, Ohio State, they had a lot of momentum after unbelievable loss into the year. We weren't sure they're going to host a college football playoff game. They did. They won that game. They soundly beat the Ducks. Ohio State won the national championship. So I don't think it's going to come out. I think Indiana could win it. I really think it's going to be someone outside that Gary just mentioned. Georgia's playing great football. After watching Ohio State, I think they got exposed a little bit too. I didn't like the play calling twice in the red zone on 3rd and 4th one that led to Indiana winning that football game, either Gary and John. But, I'm biased. I'm going to go with the Ducks. Go Oregon.
John Hartwell, flip it. Looking at the ledger sheet over there, debits and credits.
See, I'm gonna go a little different route, and this is back to the money side of things, the investment in. I think the Red Raiders out of Lubbock have a legitimate shot to play for a national championship. I'm gonna predict a Texas Tech Georgia national championship game, and the Georgia Dogs winning the national championship.
Yeah, that is not unlikely. And, they call it the University of the Permian Basin, which is where 4.2 million barrels of oil a day hit the ground out there in Midland, Odessa. It's not technically Texas Tech. It's not in the Permian Basin. It's more in the Cotton Belt out there. But Cody Campbell sold his oil and gas company for $4.5 billion. And we had Jarrett Johnson on the show a few weeks ago who covers Texas Tech. Really good reporter. I'm going to bring him back on, John. Guys, I meant to bring him on Thursday for all of us to talk to him. He said Cody Campbell literally was watching social media, and people were saying, hey, we need offensive linemen. And he comes on there and goes, well, what do you need? I'll go get it for you. I mean, how often does that happen, folks? Gary, we talk about money in Tuscaloosa, and I know some of the big donors to Alabama, they haven't even scratched the surface. But I'll tell you what's crazy is how much money Ole Miss has coming in. And it's not from all Ole Miss people. It's you talk about these angel investors. What's the appetite? You said something so prophetic 3 or 4 years ago on this show. You say a lot of really prophetic things, but this was on target. You said Bama people were late to the NIL party because they said we are the tip of the spear for college football. Has that changed?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it has, and I think Alabama's in good shape with NIL. I do not want to misrepresent at all what they have been able to do. They're very competitive in NIL. They are not at the top of the food chain. They are not spending Texas Tech or Michigan or soon to be LSU money or what Auburn says they're going to spend. They're not at that level. And I think you're right, Rob, when NIL first was announced, I think the feeling was, well, Alabama has Nick Saban. They have incredible facilities. They have all the traditional things that John alluded to that you used to build programs, great academic situation with how they handled that, Saban's program for building a successful career on and off the field. Everything was in place, but NIL changed the game, and Indiana and Texas Tech are examples of that. Indiana's done a nice job with the portal and coming together with Cignetti to get NIL money. But Alabama, I think, is in good shape. But I do think it is a different time. And I think that all of the traditional aspects of why young men choose a football program are secondary now to how much money can you pay them.
Yeah.
In most cases, not every case, but in most cases. And so I think Alabama, and you mentioned the Ole Miss, the alignment with Walker Jones and Keith Carter and what they've done is incredible over there. I mean, that's another reason Lane Kiffin had success. He's a great coach, but you're right. The Ole Miss is so underrated because people hear Ole Miss and they don't think NIL. But I've got some of the same information that you got, Rob. They've done an unbelievable job. So I think there's work to be done for Alabama in that area to continue what you need to do in NIL, because like we've talked about before, it's not finite. I mean, you raised $20 million this year. They're going to want $25 million or $30 million the next year. And it just, I'm concerned that at some point schools, and especially in the SEC where you got 16 teams that are all spending a lot of money, that investors are going to want to return on their investment. Yeah. And you can't provide that. I could see NIL dropping off at some schools at some point where people just say, we've been paying top dollar, and the pressure to win is greater than it's ever been. Yeah, the money's greater all through programs. Matt mentioned it last week with his son. Staffers are making more money. So I think there's this feeling that, something needs to be done. But right now, nobody wants to rock the boat because, it's rolling in for everybody. At some point, I could see that changing. Getting back to Alabama specifically, they're in good shape. But I think the feeling is that they're going to have to raise more going forward to maintain the level of competitiveness that they want to maintain.
Yeah. All right. So, by the way, my top four: Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon as well. But I'm picking Georgia to win it all. I picked Georgia to win the SEC. A lot of people were sipping the Kool-Aid from Texas and LSU. I passed on that. I think, by the way, these coaches I just mentioned, these teams, all their coaches coach the hell out of the kids. They coach them hard. Yeah. So if you think soft pedaling and
hey Rob, I'm going to go because I've still got to get up.
Oh, okay, yeah. I didn't see the time. Gary, thank you so much. Guys. All right,
see you, Gary.
See you, Gary. Okay. I'm going to say this, guys. My theory after surveying at least one player from all 16 SEC schools at Media Days back in Atlanta in July, they want to be coached hard. Ryan Day, he is not soft. No. Dan Lanning, not soft. Kurt Signetti, God, if he gets out of coaching, he'd be a good guy to pull the trigger on the chair. He's a tough one. And Kirby Smart. And I know this is an SEC show. I don't live in an echo chamber. That's why we bring in Gabe Kuhn and people from the outside. But I promise you, these teams that are coaching their kids hard, these kids are tough. But the ROI part, John and Matt, return on investment. You manage somebody's money into the ground, they will leave you. And there's only so long this NIL craziness will keep going on. But what's crazy is, and I love the comments from our viewers, man. Thank you so much for watching. It means the world to us. I love this guy, One Stone Angel. I want to go drink some road sodas and eat some oysters with him. As much as I hate Georgia, I think they will win it all. Sounds like he might be a Gator or an Auburn fan to say something like that. But guys, what I love about college football, I just love competition, period. No set-asides, no quotas. We're not giving anything to anybody. Just throw the best teams out there. John, you put it on that right on spot. So did you, Matt, about what your cousin Tom Bowen said. As much as you love basketball, football makes the grass grow. And you look at the ACC, Ellis Johnson made a great point to me the other day. They stuck on the 800 SAT score too long, and Chapel Hill made basketball the biggest thing in that conference for way too long. And now the ACC is so far behind, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to see that conference fail, but they need a strong commissioner, someone like Matt Dean or John Hartwell.
Definitely John Hartwell, not Matt Dean.
I don't know about all that.
Go for it.
Rob, it goes back to some of the argument that's been out there about NIL and Title IX and everything else. The numbers don't lie. 85% of the money generated from television broadcast contracts is directly tied to football. Yeah. Doesn't matter whether it's the ACC, which obviously has been known for years for basketball, but 85% of it is driven from from football, 10, 11% from men's basketball, and the remainder, you could say 1% for women's basketball, 1% for baseball, and then the Olympic sports, the rest. So clearly football is the engine that drives the train. That's no disrespect to the Marquettes and Wichita States and Gonzagas.
Yeah.
Obviously they do very well with men's basketball, and the big caveat out there still is March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yeah.
But football, historically every year is that engine, and that's why it is so popular.
Yeah, it is. And look, I want to say too, guys, Brendan gave me some numbers. I think in the last 28 days had 1.1 or something more million people going to one of these Facebook pages. We've got several of them. We have 8 channels. One of the reels we did the other day, Frank Duffy, about the LSU story, Kiffin to LSU, ahead of everybody in the country. Frank was so far ahead. That one, 479,000 people actually watched that. So we do have thousands of people watching, and we cannot thank you enough. Please keep coming back, share us, and like us. We got these incredible guests, the best executive producer in the world, Brendan Martin. Matt, John just nailed it. John gets the money part, and you do too. D1, 2, or 3, you talk to a student athlete who stuck it out for 4 or 5 years, that's an easy hire in the business world. That's NIL for life. You can get $500,000 in your checking account. Trust me, 95% of inherited wealth is pissed away in 3 years or less. An 18, 19-year-old kid getting $500,000, $1 million in their checking account, how long do you think that lasts? 3 weeks?
Well, John's been remarkable AD his career and made some amazing hires. And I think that's the thing sometimes. Like I was talking to your guy Bar2 yesterday, Rob. We're going about analytics, right? And we're talking about all these OCs and these DCs and how important it is. You mentioned something that was interesting about Georgia and not being metrically like where they normally are, but they also have perhaps the best college football coach in the country. And we talked about their improvement. Yeah. And improvement and development matters because I guarantee you, if Tennessee makes that field goal earlier in the year and beats Georgia, they're not in this position right now. They have, 3 losses there or 2, whatever. And I'm just telling you, what Kirby does with talent, it can't be understated how much that team has improved. Yeah. And they may metrically not be in the top 3, Rob, but they sure look it right now. Georgia's going to be an incredibly tough out this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and bottom line is Coach Cordelli said on the show Monday, teams can get better as the season goes along. I mean, hey,
we have bad games. John knows this as a coach. We have bad games, and sometimes that lingers statistically with us the whole year. And I will say that's unfair to look at metrics only sometimes because at the end of the day, if I have one bad game but I win the other 12 or 13, pretty good.
Yeah, I was always really good in finals week. I can tell you that's how I got out of college. I was ready.
And Rob, that's one of the things I go back. I know it's hard to say to go against Indiana winning it all because they've had an undefeated run so far. Yeah. But when you're a coach, sometimes it's good to have a teaching moment. And I just worry that Indiana, we're undefeated. Obviously, Cignetti's going to have them ready to play. Yeah. But, I would rather, if I was the head coach, whether it's going into March Madness or anything else, it's not bad to have that wake-up call and something to point to, say, hey, don't let this happen again.
That's right.
Yeah. Man, unfortunately, we have run out of time. The old Carol Burnett show, I'm so glad we had this time together. I want to say, I just read the comment from One Stone Angel, said he's battling cancer and has time to watch this show every day.
Prayers
you have
up,
no
man.
idea what that means to us. And St. Peregrine, the patron saint of all cancer patients, I will pray for you through him. For all of you watching, man, we are blessed beyond belief. Also, please support our sponsors. Landers Ford, open every day of the week except Sunday. And Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Rumble Boxing, how you fight is how you live. And, of course, hempforpros.com. Those gummies work. I took one last night with my eggnog. Man, I slept like a bear in the Smoky Mountain hollers, man. Those things work. Energy, pain, anything, whatever they are. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. For executive producer Brendan Martin, Gabe Kuhn, Gary Harris, John Hartwell, Matt Dean, all of you. Have a great day and keep watching this channel, man. Thanks for watching.